Taiwan, I'm Yvonne with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan has been shut out of attending the World Health Assembly for the 8th year in a row. Taipei did not receive an invitation to the annual event in Geneva. Incoming Health Minister Tsai Ing-wen will still lead a delegation there, saying Taiwan will apply for observer status. The WHO is the main decision-making body of the World Health Organization. Taiwan attended this assembly as an observer starting in 2009. But China blocked Taiwan once Tsai Ing-wen became president in 2016. Beijing views Tsai and her ruling Democratic Progressive Party as separatists. President Tsai Ing-wen has addressed the Cybersecurity trade show in Taipei, linking the issue to the country's national security.
面对区域威权主义的扩张以及复杂多变的治安威胁，我们也秉持治安及国安的精神，建立防御机制。未来，我期盼大家能够继续和政府一起努力，打造更为安全的数位环境。
The CyberSec Forum showcases cybersecurity solutions and technologies from Taiwan and other countries. Cybersecurity is a big sector for Taiwan, a result of the fact that the country sees almost 5 million cyber attacks each day. In her speech, Tsai said Taiwan's cybersecurity sector generated about $2.3 billion in revenue in 2023 and is still growing. As part of our special coverage in the lead-up to the inauguration of President-elect Lai Ching-te, we're taking a look back at outgoing President Tsai Ing-wen's legacy. During her time in office, Tsai made huge strides toward modernizing the country's defense and spent big to achieve those goals. Han Mil-kang takes a closer look.
When Tsai Ing-wen became Taiwan's president in 2016, one of the first things she addressed was the looming threat to security in the Asia-Pacific. Tsai took office at a time when China, which has long threatened to invade Taiwan, was increasingly capable of taking over the country. The possibility of war had loomed over Taiwan for decades, but many people didn't take it seriously, thinking Beijing would never invade. Tsai's first challenge was demonstrating that times were changing and the threat was real.
I think it was difficult for the Tsai administration to really push for defense reform because there was such fundamental disagreement about the nature of the threat. And of course, it would not make sense to do things that would be provocative to Beijing, that would then provoke it to do things that you then have to respond with more defense measures.
To modernize Taiwan's military, Tsai increased defense spending faster than any previous president. In her 8 years in office, Taiwan's total defense budget almost doubled. The extra funding allowed Taiwan to invest more in the military systems it needed to enhance its security.
She had two challenges. One, she had to play catch-up because Taiwan force modernization is an ongoing year-on-year effort. President Tsai comes into office and the previous administrations, both in Taiwan and the United States, had all but ignored the threat from the Chinese in the Taiwan Strait.
But even with more money going into Taiwan's defense, Tsai faced a big problem in revamping the country's strategy. In 2017, then Chief of the General Staff, Admiral Li Ximing, introduced the overall defense concept. It was an innovative, modern approach to warfare, focused on an asymmetric strategy. It prioritized smaller, more mobile weapons like missiles, drones, and mines over big, expensive hardware like tanks and fighter jets. Military officials didn't like that.
Those entrenched interests are really about, preserving the service's equities, largely about wanting the next and greatest large platforms, whether that's fighter jets, tanks, or capital ships. I think Tsai did hit resistance when she tried to move to what we in the United States would term an asymmetric approach to defense.
With little support, the overall defense concept ended up just that, a concept that was never really put into action. Many in Washington say this was one of Tsai's biggest security failures.
First and foremost among these criticisms is the fact that she allowed the overall defense concept, which really came to fruition under her watch, to just wither and die on the vine. And many of us here in the US think asymmetric war-fighting concepts, that really is the only way that Taiwan can effectively defend itself.
With China growing more vocal with its threats against Taiwan, Tsai vowed to continue modernizing the country's military. Taiwan stepped up cooperation with the US to acquire some of the world's most advanced weapons.
She worked with the United States to regularize and normalize the arms sales process and security assistance. Secondly, she worked with the United States to raise the ambition in US-Taiwan security cooperation so that we could talk about things that previously were not being discussed.
In 2019, Taiwan spent a huge amount to purchase 66 F-16 fighter jets and more than 100 M1 Abrams battle tanks. 2 years later, it signed another deal worth $5 billion to upgrade its existing fleet of 140 F-16s. For decades, the U.S. has been Taiwan's largest provider of weapons. But seeing how dependent Taipei was on Washington, Tsai also took steps to ease that reliance, injecting billions of dollars into the country's domestic defense industry.
Taiwan, of course, has a very capable, technologically advanced society. And it also has experience making weapon systems and platforms before. So Tsai, was able to tap into something that already existed, and I think that she did a good job building up the capacity.
Tsai oversaw the production of the country's first advanced indigenous jet trainers. She more than tripled the production of missiles and commissioned dozens of domestically made warships, most notably unveiling the country's first indigenous submarine. But while Taiwan boosted its military hardware, Tsai also made critical changes to the military structure. In 2022, Tsai extended mandatory military service from 4 months to a year and introduced more realistic conscript training. But it was a move that many analysts say came too late.
And the Tsai administration had at least 4 years to really lean into this. And instead, it kind of felt it was okay to rest on its laurels and say, look, at least we're spending enough on the problem.
Although Tsai laid much of the defense groundwork for the next administration, many here in Taiwan say her legacy will be more about the confidence she gave the military to defend the country.
我觉得蔡英文是台湾的 Iron Lady 铁娘子。第一个，她让台湾军人的地位就是比较受到重视。第二个，她亲自去巡视很多的基地，她是台湾总统历年来巡视基地最多的。所以在这种情况下，台湾军队就比较有自信，那也做了更多的这个所谓的训练跟演习。
Security analysts say that whether Tsai did enough will be up to historians to decide. While it's still too early to tell whether the new weapon systems and reforms will deter China, one thing is certain. Tsai's 8 years in office upheld Taiwan's sovereignty and ensured peace. Joseph Wu and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
Stay tuned all this week as we look back on President Tsai Ing-wen's 8 years in office. The legislature has passed a law to let Indigenous people use their native language name on personal identification documents. The law previously required the use of Chinese names on official documents, but it now accepts the standalone use of Indigenous name in their native languages. It also accommodates naming customs, allowing changes if it's for cultural reasons. Indigenous people also have the right to change to a Chinese name, though this would be a one-off switch. Indigenous lawmakers say the move is a big step forward for human rights and cultural diversity in Taiwanese law. A new Taipei elementary school teacher is facing punishment after they were accused of bullying an autistic student. It comes as more attention is being paid to student safety and well-being in Taiwan. John Van Trieste has more.
Over 10,000 handwritten characters. That was the punishment given to an autistic 6-year student at a new Taipei elementary school for breaking classroom rules. It was far from the first time the teacher had disciplined their student this way, forcing them to write countless lines, all recorded on this piece of paper. And this time, when the student failed to finish in time, they were told they couldn't go on a school field trip. The child's father is angry over what he says is bullying that's led to serious emotional distress.
太离谱了，1万多个字，在10几天你就要他全部完成，我大人都难以完成，老师是不是太苛刻了？我已经陪他睡了10来天了，学校就是不闻不问。
The father went to the media, which then prompted the school to take action.
我们就行文到局里面去，请局里面给我们3到5倍的专家学者，或者是特教专长的专家吧，由外面的人来做调查。
And though the city hasn't said what consequences the teacher could face, it says there could be discipline of some kind.
教育局已要求学校依法调查，倘若属实，必定严惩，绝不宽待。另外，移送受理进行裁罚。
Taiwan's outgoing education minister Pan Wen-chong has told lawmakers school bullying will be one of the biggest problems his successor will have to deal with. As this case and others demonstrate, that doesn't just mean students bullying other students, but also overbearing teachers who abuse their power in the classroom. Chris Ma and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
And to find out more about bullying in Taiwan schools and how it's affecting the well-being of children, our reporter Maddie Anstruther spoke to the director of the Taiwan Alliance for Advancement of Youth Rights and Welfare, Zhang Youjia.
So bullying is on the rise in Taiwan, but could you tell us a bit more about what kind of issues students are facing at school and how this could be affecting their welfare?
其实台湾的校园霸凌事件的数量其实每一年都在成长，那会影响到他们可能会是在学校会感觉到很焦虑不安，那进而也会影响到他们的日常生活跟学业的状况。那当然其实我们也会看见到说也有长期被霸凌的儿少会有抗拒去学校上课、旷课的情形。那他其实要怎么样把他离开学校之后再带回去学校，我觉得是现在很多校园霸里面遇到非常困难的问题。
What is it that the government can do to rectify this situation?
教育部在上个月4月17号的时候有刚修正通过，就是校园霸凌防治准则当中，其实已经有将一次性的暴力的事件纳入这些规范。那它也引进了非常多辅导先行的机制跟创伤知情的概念来面对处理。不过我们觉得在第一线的落实上，应该还是缺乏补充更多人力，还有要强调就是教师的能力培养，去在发生冲突之前，应该就要去做一些相对应的辅导。
That was the Youth Welfare NGO Director Zhang Youjia speaking to our reporter Maddie Anstruther. A new earthquake relief package for eastern Taiwan is focused on shoring up tourism, a key industry in the region. But not everyone in the sector is happy with the government's plan, John Van Trieste explains.
Over a month after a magnitude 7.2 earthquake hit eastern Taiwan, there are still signs of damage. But the toll goes far beyond the visible. This is a scenic region that relies on tourism, and visitors are staying away. Media attention has focused on the quake's epicenter, Hualien County, where several hotels were destroyed.
那由于近来花莲每日地震频繁，那已导致于不管访客还是团体的部分，目前针对6月份的订房率，目前平均会达1成以上。
But even in places that escape damage, hotels and souvenir shops are empty. Taidong County to the south of Hualien fared better in the earthquake. But eastern Taiwan is a rugged place with few points of entry. Getting there from Taiwan's northern cities means passing through Hualien, and visitors are thinking twice about traveling through the region.
那只是说在余震不断的情况下，可能游客还是会稍微衡量一下。
The government is stepping in to help this summer. It's offering visitors to Hualien subsidies from June to September. Help for Taidong will start in July and August, with subsidies first for group tours and then for individual travelers. But Taidong's tourism and hospitality industries are upset they'll have to wait longer than Hualien for help.
你不从6月1号开始现在目前台东的住房率非常的低，不到1成。 很多的饭店都在放无薪假。
The Tourism Bureau says it will focus on summer events to make sure the whole region gets a decent flow of visitors. But in Taidong, there's a sense that the tourism industry is treading water and running out of time. Delphine Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more of our stories. Finally, we take a look at the Punch and Judy puppet show celebrating 362 years in London. I'm Yvonne Young. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching Taiwan Plus. Be sure to follow us on social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world.